ignorance, right? So we are bound by this. We can't get away from materialism because of these three modes of material nature. But Lord Krishna is above these three modes of material nature. He's not bound by these modes, but these modes are within him, he said. And we can come out of these modes of material nature only if we surrender to Lord Krishna. But we don't know how to surrender to Lord Krishna. Means I don't know as of now how to surrender to Lord Krishna. And he explained us three things last time: illusion, delusion, and hallucination. Yes. So illusion is when you think a rope to be snake. That's illusion. Delusion is, I forgot delusion. And then hallucination is when actually there's no snake and there's no rope, but you hallucinate that there is a snake. This is what he spoke about last time. And last time, remember what you taught us? It was a lovely class. So I've come up with an acronym for it. Last time, a lot of them were not present. You want me to share that? It's very, I mean, it's, I can't use it.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay.
Share whatever. I don't remember.
It is a flip hat. I thought I'll do this with my kids in the class. So I'm not presented it yet. Flip hat. Okay. So F stands for fragrance of earth. L, light of sun and moon. Okay, this is before I go ahead. We're telling this, we're expressing like how Lord Krishna is everywhere. Yeah. So this is the way to understand. He's the fragrance of earth. He's light of sun and moon. He's intelligence of intelligent. He's penance who practice penance. Heat and fire. Ability of successful man. He's a taste of water.
Wow.
Then,
it's nice. Nice, wonderful acronym.
Yeah, and then later on, Vicky explained us more in the last class. Okay, before that, there is also, I just did these, then I forgot more. So the acronym is PS, postscriptum, PS dot SOL. Instead of SOUL, I've just written SOL. Okay, so Lord Krishna is syllable Om, he's sound in ether, he's life of all that lives, he's the seed of all existence, and he's the prowess of all powerful men. Yes.
Wow. That's nice. It's good to have like these acronyms. It's very easy to remember then. So yeah, it's nice.
I'll put it in a picture format so all children understand. Like last time, Vicky, when he was here for Arsha's birthday, he was drinking water. And so Lavanya asked him, "What are you drinking?" And he said, "I'm drinking water." And then he explained Krishna's taste of water. Like, you know, if we put it up in examples, it would be so easy to remember that Krishna is everywhere. That's it.
So, okay, thank you. Komal Mataji or Ramalingam Prabhu, you all were there last week. Do you all remember anything from last time? So, yes, Ramalingam
Yes,
Prabhu. Sorry?
4 people who did not surrender to me.
Right.
That also explained.
Who are the 4 people? Like, are they described? What is the description given?
That is that Muddas.
Yeah,
Naradama.
Maya
Pridhika.
Maya Aparita Jnana.
And Asuram Bhavam Sridhar.
Ashuram Bhavam Ashuram. Yes. So, fools, proper translates, miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest amongst mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion. So, Maya Aparita Jnana means by Maya or illusion, their knowledge has been taken away. And Asurim Bhava Ashrita. So, and those who are atheistic, demoniac in nature. So, these are the 4 kinds of miscreants, and these are the people who do not surrender unto the Lord. Now, going ahead in this verse, then Krishna is explaining about so he spoke about the 4 people who do not surrender to the Lord. And this verse particularly speaks about the 4 people who surrender unto the Lord. So now who are these 4 people as it's described in this verse? As you can see, it says, Chaturvidha bhajanti jana sukrituna arjuna artho jigyasu artharthi. So this is a very popular verse. You all can try and remember this verse. So artho, jigyasur, artharthi, jnani. So these are the 4 kinds of people who come to Krishna, who surrender to Krishna. And it's very much possible that even amongst us, we may have been in one of these categories. So what does artho mean? Artho means one who is distressed. So distress means, there is so many material problems that we may be undergoing in our life, and because of the distress, we may approach the Lord. Then the other is jigyasur. Jigyasu means one who is inquisitive. So he wants to know, what is this world about? Why am I here? Why do I have to suffer? What is God? Who is the creator of this universe? So he is inquisitive generally in nature, like that. So such a person may also approach the Supreme Lord. Then Artharthi. So Artharthi means one who has a desire of wealth. Artha means wealth. So one who wants wealth. So sometimes people want, wealth and many other such opulences, and therefore for this they may approach the Supreme Lord. Oh God, I'll offer you one nariyal, and you please give me, whatever, success in my job, in my, I may get a nice bungalow, a car, this, that, whatever, things like that. So for such reasons also, a person may approach the Supreme Lord. And then lastly, he says Gyani. So Gyani is one who approaches the Supreme Lord in knowledge. That means he has been searching about the absolute truth, and he has some knowledge about it. And that is what leads him to the Supreme Lord. So Krishna is saying, these are the 4 kinds of people who come to me. At the end of it all, this is what we need to know. So it's very much possible that we amongst us also, we might have approached the Supreme Lord for one of the 4 reasons. Can you all recall how it happened when you first took up Krishna consciousness? What was the driving force, the impetus? Anyone here feels that you're amongst these categories? If you would like to share, that is.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Kamal Mataji.
Yes. First of all, I want to chant this first. So Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukrutin arjuna artho jidnyasurartharthi jnani cha bharatarshabha. So there are 4 kinds of people, as you said, no, artho, jigyasu, artharthi, and the jnani. So according to me, when I was distressed, like I was artho, like, so that time I was why I'm suffering this and that, vagera vagera. So this one's the second. And sometimes we also feel like we want this for material gain ke liye we actually ask for Lord also sometimes. And Gyani means what exactly? I mean, Gyani, like the one who has knowledge regarding to God.
Right. Okay. Thank you for sharing. So yes, distress is very often that may be the case in Kali Yuga. The people may, out of distress, approach the Supreme Lord. That's nice. Anyone else would like to share what?
Can I?
Can't hear. Hare Krishna. I couldn't hear Priya Mataji. What is that? Priya Mataji, your voice is breaking. We can't hear. Hare Krishna. Komal Mataji, we can't hear. Your voice is breaking.
Hare Krishna.
You were saying something?
No.
Okay.
You asked something, I think. Did you ask something?
No. You shared, right? Okay. Priya Mataji, you have anything to share? Ramalingam Prabhu?
Yes. So for me, it started with Harsha. I just had faith in her. She told me, okay, you come. And the best day that I really got into KC was Janmashtami. And it was like late night. She said, you must come. I said, no, it's going to be a lot of rush. And I'm not in the right frame of mind to go. She said, you come. I said, okay, I'm coming. And I was surprised. I didn't get any line, no queue, nothing. I just walked in through. And she said, okay, I'm going to take you right inside with the group. And we were standing middle of the altar and we enjoyed midnight. The best part about what got me also, no one questioned me, no one to do anything. They were just into their own world. They were there when you want, but they won't question you. And Prashadam was a big also motivation for me to go there. So I used to actually go attend the class because at the end I would get Prashadam. And above everything, Lord Krishna doesn't judge you. You're good, you're bad, you're still accepted, and you want to surrender to him. He just doesn't judge. He's happy with every little thing that you do, or even if you don't do, he still has that smiling face. So, want to surrender.
So that was a devotee, in this case, your sister, who actually took you to Krishna. And then, of course, later probably you got more inquisitive and you liked
Yeah.
the experience. And
Yeah. So since childhood, I used to see Krishna books, Bhagavad Gita, and one uncle used to tell me you won't even understand, but I used to enjoy just browsing through. But I didn't know what was coming.
Okay. Thank you.
And
Ramalingam
especially
Prabhu?
devotees
Yeah.
are so nice, right? Means they're really nice.
Yeah. That's true. You have anything to share, Ramalingam Prabhu?
Yeah, we came to understand my father. From the childhood itself, we will recite Tirupavai, one Tamil verse that is by Andal. That every 1 month we will recite. By the time we will know the Krishna.
So what is that recitation? What is that? That you recite?
Tirupavai. That is one Tirupavai. That is 30 verses from written by Andal. That is a very famous temple in Srivilliputtur.
Like which temple is it? Vishnu temple?
It is Vishnu temple only. So
Okay.
he's Andal thought of Sri Krishna as his husband, and it is a very famous temple in Tamil Nadu. That is very near to my hometown.
Okay.
Srivilliputtur actually it is.
Okay. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So yes, so we can see that actually different ways we might have come across. So Vijay Prabhu is also sharing something. Artharthi, I landed in Krishna consciousness to play free pool and got hooked by Agnidev Prabhu's kirtan and Prasadam served in that program. So Agnidev Prabhu actually, both Vijay Prabhu and I, and both the families were connected through the same program. He was the one who brought us to Krishna consciousness. I don't remember this. I was very small. Free pool. I don't know where it was. Maybe some yatra.
Yeah,
I don't know.
so
Picnic.
basically, I was lured into coming to the program with a promise that we will get to play pool after that. So I thought he let me get bored for a few hours, then I will enjoy free pool. So snooker, pool, that.
Okay, that's nice. So
I
yeah,
have
for
an
me also.
experience to share. Okay, sorry.
Yes. No, please go ahead, share.
You know, I love Govinda's Prashadam Janmashtami night. I had it once and it was amazing. So next time we made arrangements to go, and we were three of us, and we had one coupon, okay? And we didn't know how we were going to do it. And Vijay Madhav Prabhuji was there then. He was behind us. We didn't know him, just, face it, we would know. He was so kind to give his coupon to us. He said, take it. And Harsha was reluctant. She's like, no, no, no. And who would do that, right? Govinda's coupon, and there were so many of them. I think how many y'all had, Vicky? I don't know if he remembers, but this is
Four of
weird.
us. We were four of us, and I knew that we could manage easily. And I saw you all struggling for a coupon, so I obviously gave it because. तो हम लोग तो adjust कर लेते हैं शक्ल देख करके कोई plate भी दे देता है. So.
Okay. So I was really moved by this move that a devotee can be so kind to give, actually. So.
No, had I no arrangements at that point in time for myself, I wouldn't have given it.
But still, that was though I didn't know you, so I'm not trying to be very good with words for you, but that was very kind of you. That was really kind. And temple programs are amazing. Amazing means it really moves you when you hear such like powerful speakers or talking or doing kirtan. It does a lot of cleansing, and even visiting the dham, super powerful.
Thank you for sharing everything. So yes, I also got connected with Agnidev Prabhu's program. I was very small at that time. I started chanting, and I don't know, we would play Kartal. That's what I remember, and sing loud, like we would shout literally in kirtans. We were all very small, like 5, 7 year olds, and we would literally shout in kirtans. That is all I did remember. I don't remember anything else. And I just remember that Sridham Prabhu, uh, Vijay Prabhu would know him. So he when I was a kid, he made me promise that you will chant every day. So I promised him, okay, I'll chant every day. And since I always thought that promise is something you cannot break. Of course, that is how it should be. But as a kid, I did not want to break the promise. So for years and years together, I chanted every day. There was no condition as to how many rounds, but I did it until one day I felt sick, and I then stopped chanting. I mean, I couldn't do it that day, and then I thought, oh, promise is broken. So, but it's like, Sukruti, you you did it in your childhood, and that helps later. So later, out of inquisitiveness, I think that is what brought me again back after reading. I just was inquisitive to read, understand about ISKCON, and I read Prabhupada books online, and that is how I got connected to Youth Forum, and I met Major Madhavu again after many years, and he was there to help me. And yes, devotees are very helpful. I remember Abhay Prabhu would be there in IYF. These were the only two devotees whom I knew. And Abhay Prabhu would be very kind. We would go in the basement there of IYF office, and he would say, so this is the library bookshelf. You can come here, sit here anytime. You can read books. So nice reception was given, and that loving exchange was very nice. So that is what really helped. So I think very common, I think in all what we saw amongst us is also going to be the next part of our discussion. That actually in the purport, Prabhupada mentions that these four kinds of people who come to Krishna. Uh, of course, in Krishna will explain in the next few verses that amongst these four, the best is the one who is in knowledge, not the one who is desiring wealth, not the one who is inquisitive, not the one who is distressed. Amongst all of these four, it's the person who is in knowledge who is better amongst these four. Now, having said that, it's not that the other three are not good, because as the verse describes here, uh, so it says four kinds of pious. So that means all of them are pious, all of them are good. Prabhupada says all of them are magnanimous in the purport. So which means they're great, that they are coming to the Supreme Lord. And Srila Prabhupada, he would often say that these Catholics, Christians, they go to the church will become pure themselves. Okay, so I'll just highlight. Okay, I'll come back to this verse from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. But before that, I just want to point out this. So if you see in the purport here, it says, uh, those who are always busy with fruitive activities, if you can see this para, it says, those who are always busy with fruitive activities come to the Lord in material distress, and at that time associate with pure devotees and become in their distress devotees of the Lord. Now you will see like that Prabhupada will say for everyone that whether in any of these categories you may be, or a person may be, the idea is when they come in contact or associate with devotees, that is when the change happens. So if you notice now, we all described how we came to the Supreme Lord or how we got introduced to Krishna consciousness. And you will see this common factor there everywhere, that we associated with devotees. There was someone to tell us or guide us uh, how to approach the Supreme Lord, or we just saw them and we got inspired by them. You know, their devotion, their service, their concern for us. So this is the key factor. You know, that is why it is said that even a moment's association with a pure devotee can completely change a life. You know, so associating with devotees is so important. So again, in the previous verse, you see here it says, but even if some of them by chance, this year Prabhupada is talking about, miscreants, those who are not at all interested in God. Even if them, not amongst these four, but even people who are not interested in God, if they come in chance, by chance, in contact with pure devotees, also become pure devotees. So this is the key factor here, that when we come in the association of devotees, that is when the transformation of heart takes place. So we get to learn from them how the process of devotion service works, and we get inspired in so many different ways. So this is the key factor. And before this, Prabhupada explains from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, is again a very famous verse describing pure devotional service. So Anna Bhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadi Anavritam Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhakti Uttama. So which means that pure devotion service should be Anya Abhilasha, which means और कोई अभिलाषा नहीं होनी चाहिए, which means no other desire. Shunya means zero. So which means we should have no material desire. So devotion service means it should be without any material desire. So we don't approach the Lord for, oh Lord, please satisfy this demand of mine. I'm in this need and that need, whatever. So many material desires we may have. So we don't really approach the Lord for some material benefits. If we do approach the Lord for some material benefits, then that's not pure devotional service. Then that is mixed with our material desires. So pure devotional service means without any material desires whatsoever. Of course, then you will see in the later verses, Prabhupada explains that even if someone has desires, material desires, akama sarva kamava moksha kama udaradi, tivrena bhakti yogena, whether one has desire, no desire, whether he desires liberation, if anything is there, just approach the Supreme Lord. That is also there. So even if we are not at the stage that we think that we are without material desires, if we have material desires, better not to go to demigods or some powerful person in this world, but approach the Supreme Lord only, because that will ultimately purify us, right? So that is the idea. Okay, so this is what this verse explains. The key factor here is that when any of these four personalities, distressed, inquisitive, or wanting wealth or having some knowledge, when they come in the association of some devotees, that is what actually changes. And we can see this from the life of Srila Prabhupada also. So in the West, when he went, there were people who were completely distressed in one way. So they had become hippies. And at the same time, they were inquisitive. They wanted some spiritual enlightenment because they were done with material enjoyment. They came from rich families and they did not like it at all. So they gave up all of that, and then they were lying in the streets, taking drugs and so many other things. So they were inquisitive. They wanted some spiritual enlightenment. They were looking for that. And therefore, for that reason, they were trying out so many different ways. But as soon as they came in touch with the pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada, then automatically they also became pure. And all their bad habits were, automatically gone, washed away, in no time. So the key factor, therefore, here is association of devotees. It's very, very, very important. If at any point of time we feel that we are not spiritually high or the consciousness has gone down, we should just jump the association of devotees. And specifically senior devotees, when they are giving some discourses, like now I just read in the temple today, just like we had Nityan Katha, now Bhakti Ashray Vaishnav Maharaj in the temple is going to give Gaur Katha just before Gaur Purnima. I think 24th or 25th it starts. In the next 4 days he'll be giving Gaur Katha. So whenever there are senior, devotees, sannyasis coming, we should just put ourselves in, drown ourselves in their association, because that is what will transform us. So association with pure devotees is therefore very important. Yeah. Ruji, you would like to add anything? Hare
No.
Krishna? Okay. Okay. So any other reflection or question on this verse? Otherwise, we'll go to the next verse. Okay, if nothing, we'll go to the next verse. So Prabhupada says here that on the whole, when the distressed, inquisitive seekers of knowledge, those who are in need of money, are free from material desires, when they fully understand that material remuneration has nothing to do with spiritual improvement, they become pure devotees. So we may have so many material desires in our heart, but one has to come to understand eventually that material well-being is not got anything to do with spiritual improvement. Spiritual improvement is completely independent of our, material well-being. So when we understand that, then we'll actually become pure devotees. Okay. Okay, so verse 17. Tesham jnani nityayukta.
Tesham jnani nityayukta.
Nityayukta.
Eka bhaktir vishishyate.
Ekabhaktirdarshishyate.
Priyo hi jnanino atyartham.
Priyo hi jnananyotarim.
Aham sa cha mama priyaha.
Agam shasha mama priya.
Someone like to read the translation?
I'll read.
Yes, please.
Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best, for I am very dear to him and he is dear to me.
Yes. So Krishna is saying that amongst these four, one who is in knowledge, full knowledge, and at the same time who is engaged in pure devotional service is the best. For I am very dear to him and he is dear to me. So we spoke of the four people, the four kinds of people who approach the Supreme Lord. Amongst the four, Krishna is saying that one who is in full knowledge and is engaged in service, pure devotional service is the best, because I'm dear to him and he's dear to me, like that. So what do we mean by knowledge? So here it says, out of them, he who is in knowledge of the absolute truth and free from material desires becomes a really pure devotee of the Lord. Okay, so this means that we need to also have the proper understanding or proper knowledge about the absolute truth. And what is that knowledge? Can anyone say? What is that knowledge? What do we mean by the knowledge of the absolute truth?
It means he's the supreme personality of Godhead.
Okay.
We are
And?
all part and parcels of him.
Right. We are all part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Okay. Yes, that's right. So yes. So Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and we are all part and parcels of him. And there's no one equal to the Supreme Lord, right? Everyone is his servant, right? So if we have that understanding and that knowledge, then, and at the same time, we also perform devotional service, not just having that knowledge, but having attained that knowledge, one is engaged in devotional service, and Krishna is saying that such a person is the best. So again, Prabhupada emphasizes here what? So by association with pure devotees, the inquisitive distress seeker after material amelioration, and the man in knowledge all become themselves pure. But in the preparatory stage, the man who is in full knowledge and is at the same time executing devotional service is very dear to the Lord. So Prabhupada is saying that it's not that the other three will remain behind. Other three meaning the distressed, the inquisitive, and the one after wealth. It's not that they will remain behind. No, if they come in the association of pure devotees, they will also become pure. But in the beginning stages, amongst the four, who is better is the person who has knowledge of the Supreme Lord and at the same time executing devotional service. Such a person becomes very dear to the Lord. So that is the idea. Okay. Would you like to add anything here? Hare Krishna. Okay. We'll go to the next verse then. Udara sarva evaite
Udara sarva evaite
jnani tva atmaiva me matam
jnane the atmai me marmal
jnani tva atmaiva me matam
jnane dvi atmai me tam
astitah sahyuktatma
Astita
asita
samyuktam
mam
ektam
evat nutamam gatim.
mam eva
mam yamam
tamam gatim.
gadim.
Komal Mataji, like to read translation?
Prabhu, I shall read.
Komal Mataji is there? She hasn't read. Okay. Okay, Ramalingam, you may read, please. Yeah.
All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like me, like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal.
Yes. So, see, the word here uses in the translation, all these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous. That means all four are great devotees. They are Mahatmas. Prabhupada says anyone who approaches the Supreme Lord is actually a Mahatma in one sense, you know, because he's approaching the Supreme Lord. So it's not that the other three who don't have knowledge or have less knowledge are not dear to the Lord. They are also dear to the Lord because they are approaching the Lord. For you can imagine, like a child goes to the mother and says, "Oh mother, please give me, whatever, a chocolate or buy me a bicycle or something like that." So, so is there affection in that dealing? What do you all think? Is there affection? Is there some affection? Child is asking something for himself. Is the parent happy in giving the child something that the child desires? What do you think is happening there?
Not all the time the parent wants to give what the child desires.
No, let's say, but the parent does give. So, of course, not all the time. That's true. But even the parent gives, there is affection, right, for the child, and the parent might want to give something uh, to the child because there is a kind of loving exchange. So, of course, not always would the parent want to, satisfy the demands of the child, but sometimes that parent might do that, and that doesn't mean that there is no loving, exchange or affection between the parent and the child. So that is what Srila Prabhupada is saying here, that even if someone approaches the Lord out of some material benefit, so here he says what? There is an exchange of affection. So even if someone does devotional service out of some material motive, there is some extra perfection for sure, because he's approaching the Supreme Lord. They're out of affection, they ask the Lord for some material benefit, and when they get it, they become so satisfied that they also advance in devotional service. Which means Krishna is satisfying the material desire, and after getting satisfied, they also advance in devotional service. Now we see the story of Dhruva from the scriptures. So what did Dhruva, all of you know Dhruv, right? The small boy, he was a great devotee. So he wanted something from the Lord. What was that? Ramalingam Prabhu, you know? The small boy Dhruva, the story of Dhruva.
Not able to recollect.
No? Okay. So Dhruva was a small boy, and he was desiring the kingdom greater than his grandfather. He had a material desire in his heart, because there is a whole story of how he wanted to sit on the lap of his father, but his stepmother did not allow him. There were two wives the king had, Suruchi and Suniti. So he was the son of Suniti, and Suruchi, who was a younger wife, was very dear to the king. So Suruchi did not allow Dhruva to sit on his father's lap, saying that you are not, if you want to sit on your father's lap, then you have to take birth from my womb. So Dhruva, being a Kshatriya, he was a very small boy. He was a Kshatriya, but he got very, he got agitated and he was not happy. So he went to his mother, and the mother also said, yes, this is the situation. So so he then desired that, I want the kingdom greater than my grandfather also. I want to become so powerful. He was a small kid. So what can be done? So his mother advised that, yes, you can approach the Supreme Lord, and you will find the Supreme Lord where? In the jungles. So you should go there. So he went to the jungle and he meditated there. And he did severe austerities for 6 months. And within 6 months, he saw the form of the Lord right in front of him. No one would have probably, had such a short period in which they realized or saw the Supreme Lord face to face. It was like a crash course. He did such severe austerities. He stopped eating. He was hardly eating, and he was, hardly drinking. He stopped his breath. And eventually, the Supreme Lord was so pleased with him that he appeared right in front of him to give him darshans, immediately after 6 months. So what was Dhruva's motive in approaching the Supreme Lord amongst the 4 categories?
Second.
Wealth, right? He wanted a kingdom greater than the Supreme Lord. So, but we know that Dhruva is such a great devotee, is a pure devotee. How did he become pure? Of course, he had the association of Narad Muni, who, Narad Muni, when he went to the jungle, Narad Muni said, oh, you are just a kid. Why you are wasting your time here? Go back to your home. So Narad Muni was actually his spiritual master. He was testing him. How serious is he? So he said, Narad Muni, if you can help me, please be here. Otherwise, you can, go. I'm here to search for the Supreme Lord. So Narad Muni then gave him the mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So like that, he received that mantra and he was chanting and meditating on the Supreme Lord. So he approached the Lord with the material motive. However, when he saw, he had the vision of the Lord after 6 months, what happened? He became completely free from all material desires. He had no material desire anymore left within him. So, which means that when one comes in contact with a pure devotee, or even comes in contact with the Supreme Lord, whether it's face to face or whether it's contact with the holy names of the Lord, which is non-different from the Lord, then automatically we will also become free from all material desires, even if we have them within us. Therefore, it's said that even if we have material desires, it's better to approach the Supreme Lord, because that may get purified. So when he had the darshan of the Lord, he said, oh Lord, I was wanting a kingdom so great, but now that I have your darshan, it appears to me like, this is like a jewel. And what I was desiring earlier was like broken pieces of glasses. The kingdom is like right now appearing to me like broken pieces of glasses. But now that I have your darshan, it's like I've found a great valuable jewel, like that. So which means when he had the vision of the Lord, his heart became purified completely. He had no more material desire, right? So therefore, any of these other three categories that are there, even if there is some material, desire that may be there, it is possible that that may get satisfied. And in that sense, one may also advance in devotion service, because then he feels, oh, I desired this and the Lord fulfilled it. So therefore, he automatically gains even more faith in the Supreme Lord. So does that mean that we should also approach the Lord with some material motive and material ambition? What do you think? There are both sides now. What should be our desire?
Ideally, it should be desiring for Harinam, but being at this level, it's then after hearing this, I think it is okay if you have there is a desire, and approaching the Lord is fine.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but in
So
a humble state of mind, not that he has to give it. Then whatever, as you had mentioned, as he desires.
right, as it desires. So yes, ideally our prayer should be that whatever, oh Lord, that you desire and what you think is good for me spiritually to advance in Krishna consciousness, let that happen, as you desire. But of course, depending on at our level, we may have some desires in our heart. So even if we have them, it's best to approach the Supreme Lord for such desires. So just like a child, he may have fever or cold, and he may uh, approach. So that's going to follow in the next few verses about approaching demigods. So he may go to the ice cream wala and say, oh uncle, please give me an ice cream. Now ice cream wala may know that this boy has fever. Will he give the ice cream or not? The ice cream shopkeeper. What do you think?
The ice cream fellow will give. I believe so.
Yeah, he will give. Why? Because what is he interested in?
Making money.
Making money. That's right. So approaching demigods is something like that. So they will give. They will not worry about our spiritual well-being. In that sense, that's the physical well-being. But if the child approaches the father and says, "Oh, father, I want an ice cream," so father knows that the child has fever. It's not good for him. So under no circumstance will he give him the ice cream. So when we approach the Supreme Lord, even if with material motive, so Krishna may know what is good for us and what is not good for us. It's not that he will always satisfy us. It's like Prabhupada, he had also plans. He had a big business, and he thought that by earning, he would try and support the Gaudiya mission financially and so many other things like that. But soon he realized that he became completely bereft of everything: support from his family, support financially, his business was not working, nothing. So in other words, everything was taken away from him. So that is another part that can happen. So there is a verse in that respect in the Srimad Bhagavatam which says that to those whom the Supreme Lord is very very merciful, he takes away everything from them. He takes all material things away from them, so that the devotee will then be left with nothing but to surrender unto the Lord. So that can also happen. So we do not know what is good for us, whether gaining something materially is good for us or whether becoming bereft of material things is good for us. Ultimately, what we're looking for is our spiritual benefit. In some cases, gaining materially may be good for us, may not be good for us. Or in other cases, if we become completely bereft of material things, then we may completely surrender unto the Lord, because we were so attached. Now that attachment is taken away by the Lord, so we'll surrender unto the Lord. So we do not know exactly what is good for us. It's always safe to pray that, Lord, whatever you desire, let that happen. And because that is what is ultimately going to give us spiritual happiness. Material desires, even if they get fulfilled, it's not going to satisfy us within our heart. Just like Dhruv Maharaj, he said, I don't want that kingdom and all of that now. But of course, the Lord said, no, you must take it now. So that's another thing. But he did not want it. So, which means that actually spiritual perfection is at a much higher level than gaining anything in the material world. So materially, whatever we may give is going to be temporary. But in the conditioned state, we may forget that. We may think, no, I need this in life. Some whatever material things may be like that. So we must ultimately leave it to the Lord. Then we see the example and story also of Sudama Brahman. The Sudama Brahman, he approached he was a friend of the Lord, and being insisted upon by his wife, he went to Dwarka for what? So that he can ask for some help, because he was a very poor Brahmana and he had barely anything to eat. So his wife said, why don't you go to Krishna? He's your friend, and surely he will help you. He's a king. So Sudama went to Krishna, thinking that, okay, at least I'll get to meet him. That's the point. The material thing, it's not so important. And when he met the Lord, he had wonderful exchanges and he spent some nice time in Dwarka. And at the end of it all, he did not ask anything from the Lord. And although he did not ask anything from the Lord, he was given everything. When he returned back home, his small kutia was turned into a palace. His wife was beautifully decorated with ornaments, nice clothing, and everything. So now one may wonder, he did not even ask. Still, he was given everything. Why is it so? There's one important point there that is made. Why was Sudama given everything? He did not desire it.
Lord takes care of his devotee and the family. So he knew actually why has his wife sent him. Though Sudama's desire was actually just to meet the Lord, see him, and he forgot. But he knew why actually his wife sent him. This could be one reason, and the other reason was the chipped rice that his wife had given him, right? 4 handful muthi of chipped rice. So when he had the first one, his Lord's queen said that this is good enough to give him all the riches that you want to give him.
Yes, that is also true. So he gave him chipped rice, and in exchange. But also an important factor here is that the Supreme Lord knew that even if he is given everything, he will not be deviated from his spiritual duties, or he will not get attracted by his wealth and his palaces and all of that, and therefore forget me. Because if that were to happen, then Krishna would not give him that. But he knew that Sudama is such a Brahmana, he's so detached that he will actually not be affected, even if he was blessed completely, materially like that. So that's an important point. So without even asking for anything, without even desiring anything, Krishna gave him everything because he knew that he will not be deviated. So Krishna may or may not give us materially things. More important is whether we remain fixed in our devotion service or not. If materially we are blessed with something and we can still maintain ourselves spiritually, then Krishna may do that. He may bless us materially. And if it is also possible that he may make us bereft of all material things, and like that we may surrender more to the Lord, if we are too attached to material things like that. So both of this can happen. So if at our state we still feel that no, I have material desire, then it's better to approach the Supreme Lord. But yes, it's always best to approach the Lord without any material motives, because that is pure devotion service. So pure devotion service is without any tinge of any material motives at all whatsoever, like that. So there are pure dealings of devotees with the Supreme Lord, and that is what you can see in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, actually, no one is having any material desires. All the desires of the devotees is that how can I please Krishna? How can I satisfy him? That is the only desire that the devotees are having. There's nothing for their own sake. Like the gopis, they had nothing for their own sake. They were just desiring how to please the Supreme Lord. And of course, we have heard so many stories already of how the gopis were ready to do anything, even ready to go to hell for pleasing the Supreme Lord. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is this verse. It says, Atmendriya Priti Vancha Tare Balikam, Krishnendriya Priti Icha Dhare Prema Nam. So there are two words here, Prema and Kama. Kama means lust and Prema means love. So it says, Atmendriya Priti Vancha Tare Balikam. So if you're desiring something for your own sense gratification, Atmendriya Priti Vancha Tare Balikam, then that is called lust. Then what is love? Krishnendriya Priti Ichha Dhare Premanam. So if you do something for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, then that is actually love. So the whole idea of devotion service or the plan of the Lord or in sending us to this material world is to understand that actually we'll not be happy materially, and to come to the point of wanting to please and satisfy the Supreme Lord. That is actually love. So our desires should be moving away from our own material desires towards trying to satisfy the Supreme Lord. And how do we satisfy the Supreme Lord or please him? What is the answer? How do we satisfy or please him?
You'd mentioned once Dasanudas, being the servant of the servant. When one accepts, or when one wants to accept that lower position, actually one grows in spiritual life.
Yes, that's right. So one becomes a servant of the Supreme Lord. So the idea is, let's say we have love for someone in our family, or a friend, or a child, or a father. So how do we please that person? What is it that we do?
By serving the
by
person.
Yes, Komal Mata, you're saying something? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, you were saying something?
Yeah, I was saying by giving service.
By giving service?
By giving, yes.
What kind of service will you give?
वो है ना फलम पुष्पम तोयम वो कुछ भी है वो वर्ड मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा है मतलब we offer something like by offering, by preaching.
So there can be n number of services. What should we do?
वो नहीं पता.
Okay. So it's simple.
Can I try?
Yes.
So just taking a material example, if I want to please someone, I will first of all find out about that person more in terms of what are the likes and dislikes. I will understand what sort of gifts or presents or what sort of praises, for example, the person will really appreciate and be happy with. And at the end of the day, if the person desires something of me that I should do something, then I will probably try and do that as much as possible without him telling or him or her telling me. So yeah.
Yes.
And so the Dati Pratigranati principle, of course, 6 exchanges of love.
Yes, that is what I was actually looking for. So I don't know if I could explain the question well for the others to be able to answer. So yes, if you love someone in life, then actually you want to do something that they would want, that will please them. So if let's say you want to give something to your parent, and what do you want to give to your parent? It depends on what they like, right? What they would be pleased with. So you can give that, right? So first understanding what they want from us. So what does Krishna want from us is the next question then. If we want to serve the Lord, what does he want from us? How do we know that? Because the idea here is we are coming from the point of trying to satisfy our own desires, material desires, we may have that. And now we are trying to move towards satisfying Krishna. So how do we understand how to serve Krishna? Let's find out what Krishna wants from us. How do we find that out? What does Krishna want from us?
Can I try?
Yes.
Just like how Vicky explained us now, when we love someone, we want that someone to be with us. So I think Lord Krishna wants us to be with him. That's what he just wants.
Okay, so what is it that he has therefore told us to do?
Sorry?
So how can we be with him?
That is when we surrender, when we just do what he wants us. He doesn't actually even want anything from us. He just wants us without anything. There are no rules for him. You have to do this to come to me, or do this. Just come with your heart. That's it.
Okay. How do you know this? How do you know that he doesn't want anything from us?
He needs love. And because you all are saying it, when authorities say and when your spiritual masters say, they've experienced it. So if we are not intelligent, if we are not using the knowledge to follow our spiritual masters and our authority, then actually I shouldn't be studying this. There's no doubt.
So the idea is that the Supreme Lord wants us to do something, that is to surrender unto him. That's right. And how do we go about doing that? Or what is the heart of the Supreme Lord? Because Krishna also descended, right? He descended in this material world for what purpose? He came 5,000 years ago to reclaim everyone. He wants everyone back, as you said. So for that matter, for that reason, uh, he may have given so many other instructions. Like he came in the form of Lord Chaitanya. He wanted to spread this mission, all over the world. So how do we know, therefore, the heart of the Lord is through the heart of the pure devotees, like our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. So how do we please Krishna is by pleasing our authorities, our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. So when we please our Guru or Srila Prabhupada, then automatically we will please Krishna also. Because the pure devotees actually know and understand the heart of the Supreme Lord, and they can please him. So by assisting our Guru or Srila Prabhupada, we are actually pleasing Krishna also. And how do we ultimately understand that we are actually pleasing Krishna? Because when we follow the instructions that are given to us, then automatically we'll also feel satisfied within the heart. So we wouldn't have someone else to come and tell us that, okay, you are happy. We'll automatically feel happy just by following the instructions of our authorities, the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. We will actually please Krishna. Now, what does Srila Prabhupada want from us? So he has given a whole program for us, of how to practice sadhana bhakti. Rising early in the morning, chanting Hare Krishna, following the four regulative principles, associating with devotees. So now all of these constitute the different things that we must do to please Srila Prabhupada, and in that way we'll please Krishna also, right? Because Prabhupada knows what Krishna wants, and by pleasing Srila Prabhupada, we are actually pleasing Krishna. So that's the idea. So I hope it is clear now how we are actually trying to move away from our own material desires and motives towards trying to satisfy and please the Supreme Lord. And how do we understand what Krishna wants is through the pure devotees. Yes, Priya Mataji.
Can I share something?
Yeah, please.
In IDC course, they explained it to us same way so beautifully. So they said when we want love and we need something, like we experience with the devotees. So love is basically coming down. Your spiritual master will love the devotees will love other devotees, the other devotees will love the neophytes. It's coming in a line, just the way love comes in a line down. The same way knowledge also goes in that same line. There's a chain that is followed. It's not that we can just directly ignore our authorities and jump to Lord Krishna. That is not possible.
Right.
So there is a line like love coming down and knowledge also going up in that line. So you follow knowledge up.
Therefore, it's very important that we cannot just say, okay, I'll serve directly Krishna and I'll do it as for the way I feel right. So where do we get this idea from, how to please Krishna? So this idea we'll actually get from pure devotees. Those were acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master. So when they give us or tell us what is to be done, we try and follow that, and actually automatically we please Krishna also. Right? Directly, we cannot just create our own concocted method of worshipping the Supreme Lord. Of course, in the Vedic scriptures also is the way that we'll understand what Krishna wants. Like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, one who gives this message to others is the most dear to me. Here also Krishna is saying of all the four people, the one who's in knowledge is the most dear to me. So we also directly understand by reading the Vedic scriptures and how to actually practically apply in our lives. Then Srila Prabhupada and the spiritual master, they've given us a wonderful way of applying all these principles in our life and in a way so that we can ultimately please the Supreme Lord. And when the Supreme Lord is pleased, we are automatically also happy. So like in one of the previous verses where it said that one has to understand that no amount of material remuneration is going to help us spiritually, right? So when we are pleased by serving, then automatically we'll realize that yes, actually nothing in this material world is going to make us happy. No matter what plans we had in material world, of achieving things, it's not going to make us happy. But that realization will come only when we make an attempt to please the Supreme Lord. So that constitutes our practice, daily practice of devotion service, chanting a fixed rounds, rising early, hearing Bhagavatam, associating with devotees, trying to give this knowledge to others. When we actually do that, then automatically we'll be also happy. Okay, that is a long discussion. I don't know from where it started and where it ended. Okay. So, yes. Okay, Pruji, anything you like to add here?
Just one small point. Unless you're, I mean, it's getting late and you want to do the next words also.
No.
So, yeah, so I think when we mention that, the Lord wants us to do something, and I think to Priya's answer, he doesn't need anything from us as such. So just wanted to elaborate on that. It's not that, out of some selfish motive, the Lord is wanting, mere liye ye karo. Right? Just want to clarify that. He's not demanding, okay, you do this, only then, I'll give entry to, my sacred chambers as such. It's not like that. It's more like we are the rebellious people who've kind of chosen to, stay away from the Lord. And it's not that the Lord wants, something wants to extract something out of us. It's more like out of his mercy that he sees us suffering. That's the reason he wants to kind of help us. It's like a child has chosen, to watch a horror movie in a cinema alone, in the dark, right? And the parent is outside, he is watching the child terribly suffering, he's afraid, crying, and he goes inside and tries to tell him, look, come out. Why are you sitting here? Just come out, right? And it's this convincing over a period of time till the child is, and it's not that, parent will force the child out, ki chalo drag karke le aao. Is nicely, patiently trying to convince, getting some other people who are, other children like him, sort of slightly more mature, who will tell her, ye bakwas movie nahi dekhne ka, and all of that. Slowly and steadily, nicely, willingly get him out. And that willingness is what the surrender is essentially, to agree that, yes, I need to get out of here. That's it. I don't know if the example makes sense, but yeah.
Thank you, Pruji. That was important. Yeah. So yeah, Krishna desires, if he has some plan for us, he wants us to do something, then it's actually by being merciful upon us. Yes, Priya Mataji, you had something.
I have a question, can I?
Yes.
Do we have to lose everything to get close to Krishna? Or does Lord Krishna take away everything and then we get close to him?
So,
Like, for example,
yeah. Yes.
like for example, Sudama, or even you might say Maharaj Parikshit, he was so rich, but in the end, actually, he knew nothing is going to be there with him. So do we have to lose everything, like you said earlier, something like this, right? When we don't have anything, what we want or no desires are fulfilled. Something you said, right? That means the Lord has higher plans.
Yeah. So there's a verse in the Bhagavatam which says that if onto those that Krishna is particularly very merciful, he might take away everything. So actually, we'll see both kind of examples. Like I already tried to explain different examples from different pastimes. It might be the case of Dhruva Maharaj, where he became purified although he had material desire, and after achieving Krishna also, Krishna gave him the Dhruva Loka. So he said that they be there in Dhruva Loka, and at the end you will come to me. So he got what he wanted, and he also got Krishna Prem. So he got both. So which means it's not necessary. It depends on our personal conditioning and what is the best for us. So it may happen that things may be taken away from us, or it may be happen that we may be blessed with things. Whatever is good for us spiritually, that may happen. Provided we, always pray to the Lord that, that is what we want. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, "Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim kavitam ajagiresha kamay. Mama janmani janmaneshware bhavatad bhakti rahe taki." So Lord Chaitanya is saying that I don't want anything, no followers, no wealth, no beautiful woman, nothing. I only want that I want to, serve you birth after birth. So that should be our prayer in general. And it may happen that Krishna will bless us materially, or he may not bless us. See, the point here is to understand that we have to move or change our consciousness from thinking about ourselves. Okay, because now we are so much, probably enamored by the material world, and we are just thinking, okay, uh, can I get something for myself, or will things be taken away from me? The consciousness should be, I want to serve the Supreme Lord. For that matter, if I get things materially, if I'm supported materially, that's good. If it doesn't happen, that's still okay. I'm just wanting to serve the Supreme Lord. Of course, that is a higher level of consciousness. That is, when a devotee can start thinking like that. But we have to raise ourselves to that consciousness. So that is the idea. But either of that could happen. It depends on an individual's situation, consciousness, and how the Lord reciprocates with that devotee. Cruz, you like to add anything here? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Priji, you want to add anything to her question? Her question was, will the Lord take away something from us for sure? Is that going to happen only then will we surrender?
No, that depends on the level of the devotee. For pure devotees, it happens for their glorification. For us, it happens for our purification. And if the Lord knows that if I take away everything, this guy will just, leave Krishna consciousness altogether, he won't do it. We are not on that level.
Yeah.
For someone who he understands that actually it will help him fully surrender to him. So those are the rare cases, where Krishna takes away everything, right? Where he says, to whom I am very specially favorable, to such a person I do this, right? So he's showing his extremely special favor to an extremely special soul, not to ordinary people like us who might, not be able to take it.
Yes. It may come in small, maybe fractions, like small things taken away.
Yeah, and he will give whatever is necessary. Right? He also says, Ananyas chintayantu mam ye janaha paripaste tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshema mahamaham. I preserve what you have and I deliver what you lack.
I was about to quote this line that I've heard this Harsha always saying that Lord gives you what he preserves what you have and he gives you what you desire. So that goes for people like me.
If you're using everything in service of Krishna, he will preserve everything that you have. And he will even give you more facility. Just to give you a quick example, one person, during one of the Prerna festivals, the temple was filled completely with almost like 1,500 youths, boys, right? And somebody said to Radhanath Maharaj that, Maharaj, you'll probably have to build another temple now. So Maharaj said, till the time every inch of the temple is not utilized, I'm not going to think about building another temple. Right? Which means that if you utilize whatever facility Krishna has given, right? If that is the attitude, then definitely he preserves whatever you have and he will give you more as and when required.
Prabhuji, can we say in one line that, or in substance that, so that preserving and providing is actually on the spiritual platform, like it will help us spiritually.
Correct.
Yeah. So spiritually, like bhakti will be preserved and more can be provided also spiritually for us. Actually, materially also that may be true, yeah, like you said.
Yeah, if you're using everything in service of Krishna,
yes,
then you're spiritualizing whatever facility you have. Krishna will give more. And in some cases, again, like Srila Prabhupada, he took away everything because obviously that is a very, very special case. He wanted not, to Prabhupada for earning money and, then sponsoring Gaudiya Math, but to actually start ISKCON. So that was a special plan for Prabhupada.
So we may not know what is good for us at the end of it all. And like I remember many years ago when I was in the 11th grade, I had a mobile phone. I don't know that one, and I would just use it in service. I was doing so many services with that mobile phone, like calling devotees, sending SMS. I would do so much service just by hearing my own lectures or papers, whatever. I don't not 11, maybe much later. Yeah, much later. But one day I just lost that phone. Like someone stole it. And I was just feeling to myself, you know, why did Krishna, do this? Like, why was it stolen? I was using it properly in the service of the Lord, without misusing it in any way. And I was a little perplexed. Why did it happen? But I don't know. I just took it that maybe this was good for me, and I had to buy a better phone or something like that. I don't know. So
Yeah, so you got an upgrade.
yeah, upgrade. Maybe that was needed. So Krishna did that. I don't know. So yeah, it can be perplexing. We may not understand what is good for us or bad for us. Therefore, just pray that we spiritually remain healthy. Okay, Priya Mataji, I think is completely perplexed today, even more. Should we desire something, not desire something? Should we have something, not have?
Beautiful
Okay.
answers.
Everything
Now
is
it's going to make me
taken away
think
or will be with-
actually a lot.
Huh?
Now you're going to make me think a lot. Beautiful answer.
She's thinking, will everything be taken away or it'll be with me?
I'm thinking what more will go. but it's very nice as the Lord desires. And you said, Lord will preserve what you have and give you what you desire. It's only when you're in service or doing service to Lord Krishna. Not
Yeah. So let's not be attached to things. Let's not think, okay, when will that happen? When Krishna will give me something, I'll use it in Krishna's service. The idea is to serve Krishna. And in the course, if things come our way, fine. Doesn't come our way, fine. But we serve Krishna. That is the idea. Okay. It's 1:30. I think Pruji will end here today. Any last minute reflections or questions? Otherwise, we'll end.
Yeah, he takes away everything, or takes away, like Prabhuji's mobile, for example. Even if sometimes we are, doing service, etc. But Krishna can see the bigger picture. He can see, what is coming or what is essentially what is coming our way and how, it can be problematic. So he takes away at that point in time. I remember I have an example, but I don't think it's appropriate to share now. But yeah, so I personally experienced something which was taken away, which I thought was totally, completely spiritual, and I was kind of perplexed why this happened. In fact, I received an instruction which was slightly, I could not understand in the beginning, but down the line, 1 year, I could completely understand, and I thought how I was saved, literally.
Yeah. There's I think many stories, I think, to explain this point. I think there's a story of this Akbar Birbal also, right? Like, I don't know, what was that? His fingers are cut.
Correct. Yeah.
So it explains the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you all know that story? Prabhuji, you can maybe narrate that story.
I'm sure everyone knows. This is like bachpan se sunte aa rahe. So yeah, Komal, I'm sure you know. Ramlingam, I'm sure you know, right?
You can maybe Prabhuji quickly tell in maybe a couple of minutes.
Okay.
I'll have to think hard to recollect.
Okay. So basically, one fine day, in fact, I have another story, which is kind of similar. Akbar Birbal only. Okay, but I'll tell this one first. So basically, there was so Akbar, once he was, I don't remember the exact series of things, but yeah, he somehow cut his finger, and Akbar said, "Oh, this is jo hua achhe ke liye hua," And Priya, you want to say something?
I said I remember this story.
Yeah, I know everyone would know. I'm sure.
No, I mean the order. Okay, you go ahead.
You go ahead, please. I
Yeah.
think it'll be nice if you can narrate them.
Yeah, so Akbar and Birbal went hunting in forest. Birbal was following him. And then there was a snake on the, it's cutting off the finger, right? He cuts off his finger. So then there was a snake on the way, and he jumps off the horse when he saw the snake. And what happened? The snake happened to bite Akbar. So then what he did, because he knew now the poison will spread in the body, so he cut off his thumb with the sword. And it was paining, so he put the bandage and all, Birbal, for him. And Birbal was like, we should be thankful to the Lord that, uh, be thankful for what happened. And then Akbar got very mad at him. He's like, what's wrong with you, this and that. And then he went away on the, no, then he called for those, what do you say, his people assistants,
To
took
jail.
Birbal away, and he put him in the prison. And Akbar continued forward. So there was these people who live in the, there's a specific name, right?
Aborigines or Adivasis.
Adivasis. Okay. So then Adivasis get hold of Akbar, and then they say that we're going to slay him. And
You got muted. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, even I got muted somehow.
Oh. Hare
can you
Krishna.
hear?
Now we can hear you.
Okay. So the Adivasis get him to bathe and everything. He's ready to be butchered, and then they realize, oh, we cannot offer him to Kali Mata because some part of the body is missing. His body is not complete, and that's the time he realized that what Birbal had told him, to be thankful that there's a reason for everything to happen.
Yeah. And then when he goes back, then
Tears of
he asks Birbal, but why did I jail you? Why did this happen to you? Why did you have to suffer being jailed? And
So he said, okay, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, and then he says that why did it happen, as Prabhuji said, and he said it's good it happened, because if I would have been there with you, they would leave you and they would kill me. So it's nice you sent me, and they were happy, and there were actually tears. That's what it's written in the book. Tears are flowing from both the eyes, that stating that Lord is so merciful and kind.
So we may not know the bigger picture. Like that is again moral, like one moral of the story. So Akbar did not know why he had to lose his fingers and things like that. Eventually it was for his good. So we might also in the process lose things, which we may only realize later. Okay. Anything else to share or reflect on?
I
Guruji,
realized one thing very strongly, not to be sad. Though I say it every week, I will not be sad. But with the class every time, it gives me much stronger reason not to be sad for whatever happens, good or bad. Even when good happens, not to get too excited and say, okay, everything is fine, because next ups and downs are there. So just maintain that balance.
yeah, that's also Krishna's instruction. Tolerate happiness and distress. Matra Sparshastra Konte, Sitoshna Sukha Dukhara. So tolerate happiness and distress. They'll both come and go, like winter and summer season. So you must learn to tolerate them. That's right. Okay. Anything else? Guruji, anything else? Else
I
we'll
had
close
a
it.
related story. I don't know, but it's too
Okay.
late. Oh, Akbar
Okay.
Birbal wala relation wala story.
What is it, Guruji? You can share, please.
So very quickly, okay, I'll try and concise it. So it's about superstition, essentially, or misjudgment, essentially. So Akbar, he was one day going out in his balcony from his room to look at what was happening. It was very early in the morning, and he saw down from the balcony. He was looking at some things, and and then when he turned and he tried to again turn back to the balcony, he actually slipped, and the what do you call that? The safety, this thing, around the balcony where you kind of put your hand to look out, right? So his jaw actually hit that. He lost his balance, and his jaw hit that balcony, and he broke his jaw essentially. It was very, very painful, very painful. And the same day in the court, he was like with all that patti vatti ban karke, and he was discussing with his ministers what happened, and everyone was asking, how did this happen, etc. So some of the ministers said, "Ki you must have seen someone inauspicious, therefore this happened, right? किसी मनुष्य को तो देखा होगा तभी ये हुआ, right?" So they started inquiring, "Whom did you see in the morning?" So Akbar said, "I was peeping outside the balcony. I was observing the nature. I was looking at the sky, and I saw this washerman." So like, हाँ ये washerman ही मनुष्य होगा, right? Because of which such a terrible thing happened to you, your jaw broke, right? So they all cut the washerman, got him into the court, and he was sentenced to death because he was so inauspicious. He was sentenced to death. And Birbal was not there at that time, and Birbal got to hear the story. So he went to Akbar and he said, your jaw broke because of seeing this washerman. He's so inauspicious. You're right. But you know who's more inauspicious? It's you, because the washerman saw you and he has to die now. Yeah, poor fellow, he's about to die. So you are more inauspicious. So then Akbar understood, like, okay, TK, please release him. Right? So this is the kind of superstition people have. So it's still funny. Anyways.
Okay. Thank you everyone for joining in. We did not do many verses today, but long discussion. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Oh.